Well, I thought I'd hit you with a funny story. Okay, I was almost 40 years old and I wanted to go to university. And I went up there. I had to take that ACT test. Well, I didn't know how to study for it. I hadn't been in school in like 18 years. Well, I went up there and there was a bunch of young ones there and real nervous everything about taking that test. And I looked over at him. I said, if anybody needs to be nervous, it needs to be me because I ain't been in school. I said, you ain't got nothing to worry about. It's just seeing where you belong. And it shocked a lot of the younger ones and it made them relax because, you know, if anybody should be nervous, it should have been me. But anywho, I took the test and I actually got a 28 overall, which is really good. And automatically I was on Dean's List and honor roll. I had good grades in high school way back yonder way, but so anyway, I moved into it's the like adult housing. They gave me an apartment. And well, my neighbor moved in next door, and he's a big old tall hippie looking fella. And I noticed that this short little cowboy old man had showed up in his apartment. Well, the kid comes and knocks on my door, and I call him a kid because LJ was probably 12 years younger than me. And he said, can I use your bathroom? I said, yeah. And so he's in there, and I smell that familiar smell. He's toking. I go to the door, I kick on the bottom, I say, kick, MFer, like that, just joking. And he popped open the door and he said, I didn't know you smoked. I said, oh, if I'm in company, I do. I don't, and it's never been really my thing. Well, after that, we started hanging out a lot. And, I drank beer. I loved beer back in the day. And they kept popping me on campus for having beer in my fridge. And I'd always offer them one. But anyway, I got called into the dean's office. And he told me, he goes, Tracy, you're the most honest person I've ever met. Well, then he was fishing around for me to snitch on somebody else. I said, no, I ain't going to tell you nothing. You got them little security people. They found out about me. They can do their job. And he just laughed. Well, I didn't get in trouble. Well, I'm going along. I'm doing good. And boy, I loved it. And so one night I found out that Girls Gone Wild was going to come to this little tiny podunk town. So I tell LJ, I said, come on, come go with me. I'm going to take you, show you the Girls Gone Wild. And I took him out there. We went in a cab and I surprised him and paid for everything for him and everything. And after he was having a good time, I told him I was going to go on home, but I told my cabbie friend make sure he got home. Well, in the middle of the night, I hear him getting real sick. I go over there and I just go in his apartment, and that's when I put the cold wash rag on his neck and made him drink some warm Coca-Cola, and he quit getting sick and he calmed down, and I stayed with him till he got better. He was real thankful for that. He asked me, he says, how did you know how to do that? I told him, I said, well, my son's father, who I was married to, he was real bad alcoholic. He'd get sick like that, but he passed away. Because sometimes when they throw up, they can rupture stuff in there. Anywho, the funny thing is, I told people when I went to university, I majored in toking and drinking. But it was a good old time. I met a lot of good people. But I'll never forget, it was because I was in my freshman year, I had to go take this class. And boy, let me tell you, they were teaching these kids coming in how to wash their clothes, how to use a washing machine, how to use a microwave, how to cook, how to budget their money, how to clean. It was just the most insane thing. And I asked the professor, I go, do I really have to take this, And it was mandatory, so I couldn't get out of it. But she told me that I could chime in and give, my experiences to them. which it ended up being a really fun class. Um, but that's one of them things, even if you think you can't do something, just try it. The worst they can say is no, but 9 times out of 10, if you really want something, you can make it happen. And life's too short to not try. You don't want to end up with regrets. Boy, I had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun while I was there. And we couldn't smoke inside of our apartments. And my friend LJ had made you take the tube from the paper towel, that cardboard tube or whatever, you put Downy softener sheets in the bottom of it. And you blow your smoke through it. That was funny. One night he thought he was going to be smart, and he smelled something like it was burning or whatever, and it smelled like cigarettes. And he was tired of getting in trouble too, so he called them over there, and it happened to be they big old June bugs had gotten inside of his lamp. So we laughed about that for the longest time. But yeah, and I won't touch the wacky tobacco that they have now that you can go get it, because it ain't the old school homegrown like my brothers grew. They were Vietnam vets. I remember I knew what it was, and we had went down because my older brother Kenny, he was telling my dad to come down and look at his plants. Well, one of them had a beautiful flower on it, and my mama goes, "Oh, these are such beautiful flowers, Kenny." I looked up at her, and I remember I was like 5 or 6 years old, and I said, "Mommy, them ain't flowers, them's marijuanas." And she couldn't believe I knew what it was. But that was funny. That was real funny. But I thought I'd tell you a silly story. But old LJ had a ball out at that Girls Gone Wild. I don't even know if y'all remember that kind of thing, or if you're old enough to remember, but they used to get a group of real pretty girls together. I don't know if they were strippers or what, but they'd get a bunch of girls together and take them on tour to dance for them and everything. And in small town around here, that kind of thing don't happen. So when it hit out there, boy, I made sure he went. I used to go to this bar up in Tulsa. It was called the Town Pump. Boy, that was fun. And the bartender ladies, some of them would flip quarters with their nipples. And it wasn't a strip bar or anything. It was just a old biker bar, basically. But I remember I would take my friends up there, my male friends, just to show them, what was going on. And we had a blast. And a lot of times I'd have to play bodyguard to them girls, because some of the women that went in there would get too lit and want to fight them or something because their man was looking at them. Then I had this good friend. I took him in there, and he was from small town America, and I was putting his phone number and his name on dollar bills, which was probably illegal. I don't know. Back in the day I grew up, and everybody said you couldn't write on money because it was illegal. But anyway, I was trying to get him hooked up. He's actually my ex-brother-in-law, but we always tell people we kept each other in the divorce, because my sister, she just like my birth mom, all about money and don't care what happens to people, just long as she's happy. But me and him, we've been friends now ever since I was 15, and I say he's my brother. He calls me sis, and there's a lot of people in southeast Oklahoma that thinks we really are brother and sister. Anywho, just wanted to share this and tell you life's short, and try to make the most out of it and have the most fun. And don't be working yourself to death missing out on really important and fun times. Kids grow up real quick. You know, relationships and marriages fall apart because you're not taking the time to experience life together where you have fun and stuff. And you don't need money, you know. Just a staycation is fun, you know. Just turning off the phone, the TV, turn some music on, cook, and just laugh, you know. But y'all have a good day.